Well, good day. I'm Martin Tyner with the Enoch Wildlife Rescue, and all of you know my friend here. This is Scout, our golden eagle, our most famous wildlife ambassador for our Wildlife Rescue Foundation, and and we thought we'd kind of celebrate a little bit today. This is Scout's. I forget what year it is. 20th, 20 something anniversary. And since he's become a member of the foundation, a member of the family, and so we thought we'd bring him out and just visit with everybody a little bit and talk about eagles and talk about the Enoch Wildlife Rescue and just have a little bit of fun. So if anybody has comments or questions, please don't be shy. You're certainly welcome to send us some questions, and we'll certainly love to answer your questions and visit with you. Um,
It's officially 19 this year, I think, Martin.
is it 19 this year? It
Yeah,
was up somewhere.
yeah. So, I got a question. So, look, 19 years you guys been hanging out. What is Scout's most embarrassing moment?
Scout's he doesn't have an. I have the embarrassing moments, not him. Scout. Uh, yes, there's nothing that he can do that is wrong. Even when he accidentally hit me at 145 miles an hour and dislocated my shoulder, that wasn't his fault. That's my fault. And so
Wait a minute, I
you know,
thought that was Bud that did that.
well, that was Bud. That's right, that was Bud. But yeah, they don't have any real issues. Um, they're so intelligent. They're uh, they're the ones that are in charge of the relationship, and so we have a lot of fun with that. We've got a new eagle that just came in 2 days ago. It's an adult male golden eagle. Looks very much like Scout here, and unfortunately was hit by a car. Severe concussion. Got hit in the head. Had some swelling in and around its eyes. It's and So we've got it in, and we've got the swelling to come down. He's opening his eye now. The eye is looks like it's going to be okay. And when we first got him in, he couldn't stand. He could just lay on his side and had absolutely no balance. And so this morning he's basically flying back and forth across the chamber, one of our chambers here at the house. And so this afternoon he'll go out to the Eagle Flight Chamber at the Rescue Center and get another few days of exercise, make sure everything's good before he gets released. So we'll get another one back in the wild.
Has Scout yet had a chance to fly in the new flight chambers?
We haven't flown him in the new flight chambers. We've certainly had him there, and he's been in the chambers. Um, but as far as flying back and forth in the flight chamber, no.
Why not? Is there an issue there, or just no time, or no reason to?
Well, the problem is right now Scout is quite a bit overweight, and which basically means that if he flies up to the upper perches in the flight chamber, I'd have to use a net to net him like I would a wild one, and I don't want to do that.
Oh.
And so when he's a little bit hungrier, he'll fly right down to me. But if he's not hungry, he just sits up. He would sit up on the upper perches and look at me like says, "No, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to participate." Now he has been in our 40-foot chamber here, but not in the 100-foot one.
So that's sort of a big myth, though. I mean, you see so often about birds in captivity is evil; they need to be able to fly free. But is that necessarily the case that they always want to fly free?
Well, actually, no. The truth of the matter is, especially with these apex predator kinds of birds, um, they really want to conserve energy, and so if they're not hungry where they feel they need to hunt, they don't want to. They would just prefer to, sit up on a ledge or a power pole, power tower, someplace nice and high, and watch the world go by. And as it gets a little bit warmer, they'll ride currents of warm rising air up 20, 30,000 feet and just soar around in the cool air and relax, and then come back down in the evenings, and they don't really want to basically put out any more energy than necessary, and so they're quite comfortable. Most birds are very very comfortable just kind of sitting around, having a lazy life.
So it seems like there's sort of an issue as far as how birds or actually any wild animal perceive food. And then also there's the issue of, let's say you wanted the bird to fly free, but if you supply that food, that's a whole other can of worms, isn't it?
Well, basically, uh, most animals are heavily motivated by food, and that's just you know the way Mother Nature has it, and especially if you're a carnivore, food is almost everything. And so Scout, even though he's a dear friend, he's my buddy, and even though we get along really really well together, um, he's he he's not motivated by my love and affection for him. He is motivated by food, and so if he's there's no motivation there because he's not hungry, um, then there's no reason for him to hang around. So um, with guys like this, we monitor their weight. We know um, what a healthy weight is. We know when they're just a little bit hungry, just hungry enough that they're going. You know what? I'm a little bit hungry. Maybe I should kind of look around and see if there's something I can kill and eat. And at that stage, he's looking for the easiest meal, and as long as I provide the easiest meal, he comes back.
Terry is here. She says, "Hello, everyone. Scout is such a beauty. Has Scout ever had a lady friend?"
Has Scout ever had a lady friend? And hi, Terry. No, he has not. Now he does get to fly during the courtship season. Now the courtship season is basically about mid-January, and that's certainly here in southern Utah. Some areas where it's a little warmer, a little colder, it can change a little bit. But here in southern Utah, the courtship season is mid-January, and if he finds a pretty little lady eagle that's cuter than I am, he will fly away and never come back. Basically, they pair bond for life, and so if he finds a mate, that's it. We're done. And he will never come back to me. He'll continue with his mate. Um, but we've been together 19 years, which is just absolute proof that I'm adorable. So he's kept me for 19 years. I'm a big guy.
Does his
Uh,
age play any factor in whether or not he'll hook up with another wild eagle someday?
yeah, he's getting quite old. The average life expectancy of a golden eagle in the wild is about 20 years. So as far as a wild eagle is concerned, he's an old man. And whether he'd find a pretty little young lady eagle that would accept him in courtship and then raising young, that might be a little doubtful at this age. Um, but you never know. So he's not going to at this age probably have any real desire to pick a mate. But for the first 10, 15 years we were together, that was always an issue that I just expected him at any time he could leave.
Cindy says, "You are an absolute godsend for these birds. Who do you have to follow in your footsteps?"
That's what we're working on right now. We've got the new Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center that's up and running, so we've got amazing facilities now, and something that I have needed for well over 40 years here in Utah. We finally got the new facility, but now we've got to get people trained, and unfortunately, um, our culture isn't like it used to be. It used to be when you were a college student, you would look toward apprenticeship programs, um, and basically you would look for individuals that you could say, well, gee, I really like what you do. Can I intern for you? Can I be your apprentice? And 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 they would accept the training that you give them. They would accept that instead of pay. But nowadays, here at the university here in town, I get high school or college students coming up to me and says, I really like what you do. I'd like to intern for you. How much do you pay? And so they expect a reasonably good compensation financially in order to intern. And we need to find people who are dedicated more than just looking for a paycheck, and that's a little harder to do these days.
That reminds me of a story I read once in this book called Healer of Angels, where there was this kid who talked about meeting a experienced falconer and like all the stuff he had to do.
Yeah, that's my book, Healer of Angels, and you know the nice thing, if you buy the book off our website, you'll get an autographed copy, and Scout autographs the book. He basically it's we put his actual footprint and stamp that in the book so that you've got an autographed copy from Scout. But anyway, yeah, that particular story, I was like 16 years old, and I was driving back up in some of the canyons in Southern California, back up in the canyons looking for hawks' nests, and I heard a very strange sound. I heard and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I thought it was my car was breaking down. I thought I had a 1956 Volkswagen Bug that was always breaking down, and so I thought my car was breaking down on me, and so I pulled over and parked to see what was wrong, and I heard that sound again with the engine turned off, and I was looking around wondering what that horrible sound was, and there was a dirt driveway that kind of went down into the canyon. And so I started walking down the dirt driveway down into the canyon, and here's this guy, this older guy, and he's working with an elephant. And I was just shocked. And then in some compounds, some cages and things off in the distance, that he had lions and tigers and a bear and then over in a shady spot under some trees there were some birds of prey. In fact, some exotic ones that ornate hawk eagles and Marshall's eagles and some very interesting exotic birds. And so I called out to the guy, wanted not to get close because he's got an elephant. I don't want to get stepped on. And so we called out to him, and he told me to get the hell out of here, that I didn't belong here, and I yelled back, "I'm a falconer, and I see your birds of prey, and I'd love to come look at your birds." And so he told me to stay where I was at, and he put the elephant away, and then called me down, and I walked down the rest of the dirt road down to where he was, and he was really not happy that I was there, but he showed me his birds, and I visited a little bit, and I asked him, I says, I really have a passion for these birds, and I love your other animals. Is there anything I can do to help you? And he basically says, well, I can come back on Saturday morning. And so I went back Saturday morning and walked down there, and he was busy, and he basically put me to work. And I had to shovel, you know, elephant dung. I had to dig fence posts. I had to dig ditches. I had to put up fencing. I had to scrub out cages from where the lions and tigers would poop and pee, and do every horrible, dirty, disgusting job that you could think of. And every spare moment I had, I would drive back to his place and volunteer. And by the time we got pretty close to the end of the summer, I was getting pretty tired of slave labor, and was going to tell him that I was done. I'd have to go back to school, and I was done, basically doing every dirty, horrible, stinky job in the place. And when I got down there, he says, "You ready to go to work?" And I thought this was going to be my last day, and I said, "Sure. What do you need?" And he says, "The elephant needs a bath." He says, "The elephant needs a bath." He says, "Yeah, the elephant needs a bath." So he walked me over, taught me the commands so that I could work with the elephant a little bit, walk it over to a concrete pad, order the elephant to lay down, and with a big bucket of water and a scrub brush with a handle, I got to give an elephant a bath. And then my whole world changed. Uh, from then on, all of my chores uh, it was called Animal Actors of Hollywood. All of my chores there got a whole lot more interesting. I wasn't shoveling dung and on my hands and knees scraping, you know, lion feces off a concrete slab. I was actually able to help him with the animals, and so yeah, I got my apprenticeship. I got my internship to work with these animals, and Hubert and I became very, very good friends. And though there was a lot of work to do at his place, he would take me on movie and television shoots and have me help him. And anytime we did, commercial kinds of shoots, movie and television types of stuff, he would pay me. He didn't pay me for cleaning cages, but he would pay me when I did the helped him with the shoots, and gave me a tremendous amount of education. And so I treasure those times. It was one of the most important times of my life was working and learning how to handle these animals.
So I'm a little late to notice this because I always stare at Scout when he's around. But we got a $50 donation from Terry, and also a $50 donation from Ronnie1111.
Hey Terry, hey Robert, thank you very very much. Your donations are what help us feed these animals, and in fact, we're kind of getting ready to put another order in for frozen rats, mice, and quail, and so the money's gratefully appreciated.
So as usual, our friends are the ones reminding us to call about fundraisers. So Cindy says, "What's the average cost to take care of these injured birds for a month?" Which I think she's sort of hinting at us, saying, maybe ask for some money at this point.
It depends on what we actually are feeding them. Let's take Scout for an example. Scout will eat two very very large rats, and depending on if I get them on sale or not, they're about between $5 and $10 a piece. And so he'll eat two of those. So figure uh, $10 a day, 30 days. So you're looking at $300 to feed him, and that's the cheapest. Now, if we go down to something like quail or something like mice, it gets a lot more expensive because they're smaller and he eats a lot more of them. So yeah, about figure about 250 $300 a month to feed Scout. A red-tailed hawk, we're looking at more like $100 a month, $150 a month for a red-tailed hawk. So it is really quite expensive. Something that we're starting to do, we would, like I said, order in frozen rats, mice, and quail. Um, put out thousands of dollars a month to feed these guys. And when my wife and I had our pet store, um, we would raise rats and mice for the pet shop and have them for sale for people. And we would try to raise just as many as we could and have them that we would put them in the freezer as food for the wildlife that we're caring for. And since we no longer did the pet store, we kind of stopped raising our own and started buying them from suppliers. Well, like I said, the price keeps going up; it gets more expensive, and so we fired up the old incubators downstairs in the basement, and we purchased quail eggs, and we've got our first hatch of quail. and I've got a second batch of eggs in the incubator right now, and so we're just seeing if we can raise enough quail to help supplement the cost. Um, it really isn't a whole lot cheaper. It's a little cheaper, but not a whole lot. But there's a lot of time involved. So we're trying to raise more animals as a food source to help cut the cost out a little bit.
And we have a clarification. Ronnie1111 who donated for us, her name is Veronica. She says, "Love your
Oh,
work. Thank you for all you do for these beautiful animals."
well, thank you, Veronica. We appreciate you so much that you help us care for these guys. Huh, Scout?
Leanne asks, "How much does Scout weigh?"
Scout weighs his flying weight's about 8 pounds, and so the difference in flying weight is he right now he's very fat. In fact, you can't even feel his keel bone at all, so he's very overweight. Um, but so he's probably over 9 pounds right now because he's had so much to eat. But at lowering his weight just a little bit, so he's a little bit hungry and wanting to hunt. Yeah, the appropriate weight is about 8 pounds. Golden eagles do range in size. Now this is a male golden, and the male golden eagles range in size from about 5.5 pounds, up to about 9 pounds for a male, and a females are about 9 pounds up to about 14 pounds for a female. So the females are significantly larger, uh, though he's a big male, and he's certainly big enough to work with.
Okay, Terry asks, "Is Scout on a worming delice program?"
Yes, basically about once a year, we'll give him a little bit of worming medication. And to be honest with you, we kind of watch his his poops to see if we see any signs of parasites. And I haven't seen parasites in him for many years. And as far as lice is concerned, yes, we do. About twice a year, we'll spray him with lice spray. And what we usually do is spray him once and then wait about 10 days and spray them a second time, uh, to make sure that if there were any eggs that had been laid, the, the eggs hatched, we kill the new lice. And so we do that about twice a year. Um, and so it's nice to have an eagle in my arms that's not infested with lice, because all the wild ones that come in are just covered with lice, and we treat them um, for parasites, for lice and worms and those kinds of things before we send them out.
Juanita Black Burris says, "I love watching your videos. Thanks for the good work. My boys and I have been looking for a way to support you. Thanks for the live stream. The $111 donation is from my 3 Eagle Scout sons."
Oh well, thank you, and please thank your sons for us and tell them congratulations. I'm extremely proud of them, and to have earned the rank of Eagle Scout um, shows a young man's skills and dedications. Um, and also congratulations, Mom, for turning out 3 Eagle Scouts. That's incredibly impressive.
And we have a question from Arlene. "I just discovered how to do this. How do I donate?" So on YouTube, there's a little blue button at the top corner of the screen, but you can always visit our website at www.gowildlife.org.
Yeah, and all your donations come directly to our foundation, and is used exclusively for to care for the wildlife, and to basically cover the cost of facilities and insurance and transportations and all the things we need to run a wildlife rescue center.
And it covers the cost of these live streams because the eCam program we use is not cheap either. And so all those donations just help in so many ways that we couldn't even have accounted for before we got them. So, but I have a question going way back. When you first got Scout, when he first joined the program, he was really primarily, your motive was as a falconry bird, and kind of second was as a wildlife ambassador. So when you got him, as you got to know him, what were the qualities where you kind of realized that he was going to be this crazy, wonderful wildlife ambassador as well?
Well, the one of the nice things about golden eagles is if they're handled properly. Of all the birds of prey used in falconry, if you handle the golden eagle properly, this is one of the gentlest and one of the most affectionate of all of the birds of prey. Now, if you handle them inappropriately, you're looking at an 8 pound creature that'll put you in the hospital on a regular basis. Golden eagles are super smart, and they never forget and they never forgive, and so you never want to offend an eagle. Um, but I've been working eagles for a very very long time, and I just have a real soft spot for the golden eagle, especially. We love the bald eagles here in North America as well, um, but I have a real soft spot for the golden eagles, again because of their intelligence and their personality and their gentle disposition. And so Scout is a great example of what a golden eagle can be when handled appropriately.
So we got an anonymous donation a few minutes back, and now we've got some clarity. It was from Elizabeth. She says, "Anonymous is I, Elizabeth. I am trying to catch up on your events and doings. Have watched since pandemic days, but slowed down watching due to work. I have always appreciated Martin's work."
Thank you, Elizabeth. We sure appreciate all of you guys and all of the kindness that you share. If it wasn't for you guys, we we wouldn't we wouldn't be doing what we do. Um, it just humbles me to think that how many people are out there helping us. It means a lot.
Colleen P says, "How are you all feeling? It has been a while since I have visited."
Well, we're actually doing pretty well. All the birds are great. Both Scout and Helen the peregrine and Piper the prairie falcon and Bell the Harris hawk and Whisper the screech owl. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's doing good. We just started our programs season up again. We have a university in St. George, Utah, that books between 20 and 30 wildlife shows every year. And I'll be honest with you, last fall when I finished the programs the for it's Utah Tech University, and I finished all their programs, and I told them, I says, it's really taken a lot out of me. These programs, you've got to drive down do these programs. They're very long, and I'm getting very very tired. I had some health problems a couple 3 years ago, and I do need to start cutting back. So I think I need to cut back on these programs that I'm doing for you folks, and they were understanding. They were perfectly fine, and they says, okay, well that's great. We'll find somebody else to fill your shoes. And then in January, I get a phone call from Utah Tech University, and the gal that books these programs, she just called and she says, I've been trying for the last like 3 months to find someone that could do a program, um, and he says they're like yours, but there just isn't anybody. We need you. What can we do to bring you back to have you do this again? And I says I don't know. I says I'm really trying to cut back a little bit between the Wildlife Foundation, the new rescue center, and everything. We're trying to get people trained, and it's just more than a full time job. And anyway, they twisted my arm, and I told them that I would give them one more year. So I'm back doing the programs for Utah Tech, plus all of the other individually booked programs that I do, and so we're desperately trying to get people trained. And I've got two volunteers right now that have been starting to come to the shows, and I've been letting them take a piece of the show, whether they hold Whisper the Screech Owl, or they hold Piper the Prairie Falcon, or Bell, just one of the other birds, and let them do a portion of the show to get them used to public speaking and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to get them trained, and we're trying to get other people trained, um, to be able to feed the sick, injured, and orphaned. We have the baby season has started, and so we're starting to fill up with all sorts of baby mammals and baby birds that need around the clock feeding, and so we're trying to get people trained to do that. Um, I do have a goal, just so you know. Susan and I have been married now for 47 years, and so in a little less than 3 years, it'll be our 50th wedding anniversary. And I have promised Susan that we will have the foundation to the point where she and I could take a vacation. It would be the first vacation we've ever had since our honeymoon of 47 years ago. But we will have a vacation. We're going to take a second honeymoon. I want to take her on a nice trip. Um, we're looking at possibly, one of these smaller cruise lines that, kind of cruise up the coast and cruise up the big rivers and those kinds of things, and just take a couple of weeks off for her and I, just to relax. But we can't do that unless I get everybody trained. So that's the goal, is to get the foundation to the point that it doesn't need me anymore. So Susan and I can have a second honeymoon.
Can you talk about the learning curve in order to work with wildlife ambassadors? Because in the past you've said how, like, if you go out with you and Belle hunting and you could put a glove on almost anybody and Belle's fine with landing there and using that other person to help her hunt. But with Scout, it's a very different story. Can you talk about why?
Well, it's individual birds. They all have their own individual personalities and temperaments and those kinds of things. Now, Belle the Harris Hawks have a very, very stable personality. Um, they, you know, they don't like to be necessarily touched, but I mean, Belle lets me touch her, and everybody lets me touch them. But that's not their favorite thing, especially from strangers. And so when people do come out in the fall and winter, when we're out hunting with the birds, um, and we're walking out through the desert and we're flushing out rabbits, I'll have everybody, put a glove like this on their hand, and as we're kind of walking along, when you hear Belle's bell, that means she's coming. You just kind of hold your arm out, and she'll land on your arm and use you as a portable perch, just like she uses me. But I tell people, don't reach up and touch her. You know, Most likely, if you try to do that, she'll leave. And so, if you want the experience of having a bird like this sit on your arm as you're walking along and having this kind of a unique, close experience, you have to follow my instructions. Now, um, prairie falcons are more high strung. Um, they generally don't like people at all, and they aren't one that would want to have strangers hold them. And so with Scout, the problem with Scout is these are, like I said, extremely intelligent. They're extremely powerful. They can hurt you very badly, and so uh, we have to get people trained how to pick them up properly, how not to offend them, um, you know, and kind of watch their movements and their attitudes and what's going on, so that they are comfortable. So yes, I do need to get a couple, three people trained that can walk in and pick up Scout and use them for as a wildlife ambassador for programs. Um, I've got one guy right now. Unfortunately, he's a student at the college here in town at SUU, and he's a very nice guy. He's got a great, quiet personality, and he's been coming and helping us do shows. And I think he would be a good candidate. But when he graduates from SUU, it's obviously he's going to be moving on with his career, and so probably by about the time I have him trained, he'll be leaving. And so to find somebody who is dedicated to to making this their life's work, that's a little harder to find.
Can you talk about the other side of that, of the intimidation factor of people that may be cool hanging out with Belle or with Piper, but completely don't want to go near Scout? And Susan, as much experience as she has, she's on that list, right?
Well, yeah, basically, you know, these are uh, a large hawk. If it's talent, let me bring up here, you can see those feet a little bit better. A large hawk um, can certainly drive its talons into your hand, and it's extremely painful. It's very infectious, and but they're not going to kill you. And a golden eagle isn't going to kill you either. Um, but the damage is significantly more severe, and so you have to have, when you're working with animals of any kind, and I don't care if it's puppies or kittens, I don't care if you're working with parakeets or cockatiels, whatever animal you work with, you have to have a degree of comfort. um, I if you put your hand up to pick up a bird, and the bird reaches over and go reaches over with its mouth at to you, if you pull back, the bird says, "Oh, this person's afraid of me." That means I'm in control. That means I can do all sorts of bad things, and and really intimidate people, because again, they're very smart. And so you have to have a degree of confidence and a degree of comfort. And if you don't have that, um, then we can't have you working with animals. Like I said, I've had a lot of people over the years want to come up and work with the animals, but they don't have the quiet disposition that's necessary, and they don't have the comfort level. You know, when I put my hand up, and if he reaches over and bites me, or I bring my nose right here up to his nose, yes, you're such a good boy. Basically, I get asked all the time, you know, aren't you ever afraid that he's going to reach up with his beak and rip your nose off? And the answer is no. He certainly could. He could certainly bite violently if he wanted to. Um, but if I worry about that, um, he's going to pick up on it, and then we're going to start having problems. And so it's my comfort with him that keeps me safe. And so anybody that works with wild animals will understand that.
Maybe we should remind people about why you're wearing the glove right now.
Well, the reason for the glove is very, very simple. Like I said, these talons right here. Let me see if I can get a good picture of that for you. Okay, 600 psi. Um, he can, if he wants to, he can drive those talons through that glove. But those talons are razor blades. They're incredibly sharp, and the slightest little rub on these talons, especially this one. This one's got a little cutting edge right there on their feet. They got a little razor's edge right there. The slightest little rub will slice me open. And so the glove doesn't protect me from the power of his grip, but does protect me from getting um, badly scratched up by the sharpness of the talons.
So we've got some more donations rolling in. Olaf B donated 20. We had the anonymous donation of $100 and another anonymous donation of $5.
Well, thank you, Olaf, and thank you everybody else for your donations. It means, like I said, it means the world to us. And Scout thanks you as well. That means more rats, more rats for breakfast. He
So
likes his
here's
work.
our URL. It's still the Christmas stuff though, because these are the graphics I used for Vlogmas. I forgot about putting new ones up. But if you want to go visit our site and learn more and donate and all that, you can go to www.gowildlife.org. And also a reminder, when you donate on YouTube, it is absolutely 100% going to us. They cover all other costs.
Yes, YouTube's been a wonderful partner to help keep us afloat by, like I said, not charging us any fees. and so you give us $10, and we get $10, and that's really important, and that's wonderful.
A question from E. Besides dedication, what other types of skills or abilities are important in doing what you do?
Um, Basically, you certainly have to have an understanding of the individual animal and the husbandry skills that are required for that particular kind of animal. And I don't care if it's, like I said, it's a puppy or a kitten or an elephant or an eagle. It doesn't matter. You need to be well versed on the individual animal and its needs, its requirements. You also have to understand its emotional needs as well as its physical needs, because they do have different personalities that we need to adapt to. And so there's a lot of learning that needs to be done, and but really most of the learning stuff we can teach. That we can I mean, you can read books, and you can have somebody sit back and say, okay, the way you're approaching this animal, do it this way. It's easier to keep the animal a little more comfortable. And if you're going to touch the animal, touch it in this way. Those things can be taught, but the thing that really can't be taught is having the right disposition yourself. um, I have seen this for more than 50 years. People come up. Um, Let me see if I can explain this to you. You and I, we have two languages. We basically have a verbal language, which we're using right now to communicate with each other, and that's wonderful. And I consider written language the same thing as a verbal language. Um, and we also have what we call a body language. And your body language is what animals use, and that's what they respond to. And so I'm sure we've all had this experience where we're visiting with somebody, and their words say, I like you, you're the nicest person in the world, I really like to hang out with you, but their body language says go to hell. And it's not that these people are mean, these people just have terrible body language. And so with animals, since body language is really the communication that they basically use primarily, they pick up on every little cue. And so if you're a nervous person, if you're a little bit of an edgy person, if your body language isn't good, it's really really hard to be able to handle, especially wild animals, because the wild animals are certainly more in tune with with body language. And so my sweet wife Susan, she's great with the domestic. She's great with dogs. She's great with cats, um, and that that's why we make a living. We own a dog grooming shop, and Susan's incredible. Um, but she has a little bit of a nervous, high-strung personality to work with the wildlife, and so it's just quite frequently, you know, she helps me do the vet work. She helps me hold them. She helps me, do what I have to do with trimming the beaks or the talons or changing bandages or IVs or whatever I have to do. Susan helps me, and she's wonderful that way. But she cannot sit here like we are with Scout, just comfortable and calm and happy, because Susan is just a little bit too edgy, a little bit too nervous, and that makes him nervous. And so that's when people come to want to help us with taking care of the animals. There's some very nice people that I have to say, I'm sorry, we can't have you work with the animals. You're just a little bit too edgy for the animals.
Leanne asks, are golden eagles' eyes as sharp as bald eagles?
Oh yes, absolutely. Uh, this eagle right here can spot a jackrabbit 5 miles away, and so they have tremendous eyesight. One of the big differences, though, the bald eagle, his eyes have a little polarizing element to them that allows them to see through the reflection in water to catch fish. and I don't believe the golden eagle has that. But they all have what we call a nictitating membrane, which is a third eyelid. See, he has an upper eyelid that will close down, a lower eyelid that will close up, and an inner eyelid that moves from side to side, called a nictitating membrane. And I don't know if you can see here. You can see his blink. I don't want to. Yeah, it's hard to make him blink. But that little blink, that basically that's the inner eyelid that protects his eyes like a pair of goggles when he's flying at high speed or hunting to keep his eyes from getting damaged.
S asks, "Hey Martin, I was wondering, do you know about Alejandro the harpy eagle from the World Bird Sanctuary? By the way, I love eagles."
I don't know about that eagle in particular. Are we talking? Are we talking the World Bird of Prey Center in Boise, Idaho? Because I know they have a harpy up there. Um, I had the opportunity to work with four harpy eagles at the LA Zoo, but this was almost 50 years ago, and I don't know if they're still alive. Harpy eagles are magnificent birds. Um, this guy, like I said, he's 8 pounds, and the big harpy female harpies that I worked with were 32 pounds, and they were like that tall, so they're quite a bit bigger than Scout. Um, they're not generally used in falconry very much, for the simple fact that there are very few humans that have the physical strength to carry one around. A golden eagle is certainly um, at the very uppermost limits of my abilities to handle comfortably.
So we got a couple comments from back when you were talking about your plans for a vacate. Living Awesome says, "Congrats on your upcoming 50th and second honeymoon. You deserve it." And Vintage says, "You've earned a vacation."
Well, thank you. I think probably more than anything else, Susan's earned a vacation. She's been my dedicated life partner, like I said, for 47 years. She's my very best friend, and I every day I wake up wondering, what have I done to deserve such an amazing young lady to have tolerated my lifestyle? And so yeah, I just I do little things to show her how much I appreciate her, but I would love to take her on a second honeymoon.
From DS Trains, "Hello Martin, have followed you since the mid 80s and your presentations at the Shakespeare Festival with Bud and the other birds."
Oh, well, you've been around us for a long time. Yeah, yeah. For those that didn't know, Scout is not my first eagle. My first golden eagle that was mine, not a rescue, but actually mine, was a golden eagle named Bud, and Bud and I performed at the Utah Shakespeare Festival here in Cedar City, Utah, for a dozen years, and we did a flying bird of prey program, and basically played the part of a 15th century falconer, basically teaching all of the patrons at the festival about falconry. In fact, I can show you. Let me tilt this up a little bit for you. The picture that's right behind us, right there. Um, that was actually painted by one of my apprentices several years ago, and that's Bud. That was my eagle Bud, um, and he passed away. He was bitten by a mosquito and died of West Nile virus.
DS also added later that he found photos that his late father took then, and also DS donated to the foundation.
Oh well, thank you for the donation. It's so funny. Like I said, I've been doing this. I was the curator of Birds of Prey at Busch Gardens, and then, like I said, doing some movie and television work. And every once in a while, I run into somebody that 50 years ago was at one of my shows. In fact, when we first, I ran into someone a few years ago here in southern Utah, and he saw me and he says, "You sure look familiar." And I told him that I rescued birds and that kind of stuff. He says, he looked at me and says, "Did you ever work at Busch Gardens in California?" And I says, "Yes, I did." And he says, "Oh my God." He says, I just found your picture in an old photo album that we took like 50 years ago. And So he had a picture of me and one of my eagles at the shop. So it's amazing how things kind of come around.
Living Awesome asks, being a smart bird, does Scout know the difference between your skin and the glove? Does he know that he can hurt your skin?
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest with you, on the glove here, he's not trying. I don't wear the glove because I'm afraid that he's going to purposely want to hurt me. I wear the glove because just the sheer fact of his size and his weight and his strength, and these talons, like I said, are just razor blades and little tiny needle points. Um, just him sitting as gently as he possibly could on my bare skin, I end up with cuts and punctures, and so the glove helps me prevent those kinds of things. But like I said, if he wanted to injure me, he certainly could.
And haven't you also mentioned too that the glove is a little more comfortable for him as well?
Well, it is that I mean, my hand is, it's thin, it's bony, it's thin skinned. This is not a suitable perch um, for a large bird of prey of any kind. And so the glove is soft, it's padded, and it makes he can get a much better grip on it and be comfortable. So this is actually more comfortable for him than trying to sit on my bare arm.
Tiff says, we love you, Martin, and all the work you do. Ontario, Canada, we follow. XO.
Well, thank you, Tiff. I appreciate you guys. Love all you guys up in Canada. We have so many good friends up there that not only follow us, but I've had so many folks from Canada come down here on vacation and come out and visit us and visit the foundation and just the sweetest people on the planet uh, come down from Canada. We love you guys.
And we got a response from one of the people who donated. Olive says, my pleasure. Thanks for the work you do.
Well, thank you, Olive. I appreciate it.
Olaf, sorry.
And pardon,
Olaf.
Olaf. I'm sorry. But on my screen it's not very big. I can't really read the words on the screen. Um, so Olaf, thank you so very very much. And like I said, it's really because of you guys that the Enoch Wildlife Foundation Rescue Center exists.
From S, hello from Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Wonderful to hear about teaching others and giving people who want to help a start to decades of experience.
Well, thank you, and yeah, we that's kind of the if we don't get people trained in the next couple 3 years to literally replace Susan and I, um, we run the risk of our wildlife foundation not surviving. As I've seen so many organizations that were run by the founders, and they never put the effort in to get people properly trained. And when the founders pass away, the good work stops. And so we don't want that to happen.
Fruitcake says, much love for this organization.
Well, thank you, Fruitcake. That's a cool name. And again, thank you for your kindness.
Love to Talk says, will you get another dog?
We have another dog. For those of you that have been following us for a number of years, I'm sure you're familiar with Cody, our white standard poodle. He was kind of a fixture in a lot of our videos, and it was Susan's dog. Went everywhere with her, and Cody passed away last January, and he had compressed discs in his spine, and it got to the point where he was in such great pain. We had to do the right thing for him, which certainly broke Susan's in my heart because we loved that silly dumb mutt. He was such a sweetheart. Um, Now, for years we've had standard poodles, and the reason we've had standard poodles for years is because we own a dog grooming shop, and a standard poodle we would use to teach um, our employees how to be dog groomers, and a standard poodle is a great dog for that. And before the standard poodles, Susan and I raised guide dogs for the blind. We'd raise seeing eye dog puppies, and then when they're raised and all of the basic training, then we would give them back to the organization, and they'd finish off the training and then give them free of charge to people who were blind. And so we did several years raising guide dogs for the blind. Prior to that, I had my dog, and my dog was a little Brit, and she was my little buddy, and she was my honey dog. Would go out hunting with my birds, and she would go everywhere with me, and she'd sit next to me on the seat of the car or truck, and she was just my little shadow, and loved her to death. And of course, she got old and she passed away, and and so when Cody passed away, Susan decided that, with at our age, she can't groom anymore, and and handling such a large dog, because the standard poodles are, up to 70 pounds or even sometimes more. It's a very big dog, and it's a lot of fur and a lot of work to keep them groomed nicely. And she decided that she just couldn't do another standard poodle again. And I told Susan, I says, for decades you've been telling me I get to choose a dog. I says, does that mean I get to choose my dog? And she says, yeah, you get to choose the dog this time. And so we looked at a lot of animal rescues and animal shelters and those kinds of things. Um, and we couldn't find what I was looking for. And I really wanted another little Brit, because they're medium sized, they're about 30 pounds, and they have very soft, smooth hair. You don't have to groom them. You can wash them off with a hose if they get dirty, and which they absolutely love water, so that's fun for them. But Brittany's are a great little hunting dog. They're extremely smart. They're wickedly smart, and they're very high energy. And so I told Susan, can we get a Brit? And she kind of cringed a little bit with the idea, because she knows how high energy they are. But we found a litter of Brit puppies up in Pocatello, Idaho, and we went up there and picked a little Brit pup, and she's a little white and orange Brit. Just she's way too cute, and again, um, she has basically two speeds. She's either a Category 5 tornado with massive destruction everywhere she goes, or she's sleeping. And so she is keeping Susan and I on our toes. We're constantly busy trying to keep up with her, but we really, really adore this little Brit, and we'll start introducing you guys to her here in the near future.
Vintage asks, what is Scout's wingspan?
Scout's wingspan is a good 6 feet, and I don't know. I don't really have a room to do this, but I'll try. So yeah.
Yeah, I should apologize. I completely spaced. I didn't ask you to put glasses in your pocket today.
Oh yeah. No glasses. So the joke is that when I've had cataract surgery, and so my eyes are much better. I don't wear glasses except to read really fine print. Um, but other than that, I don't need to wear glasses. And when we go do our shows, I take my glasses off and stick them in my shirt pocket while I'm talking and doing my wildlife shows. And Scout used to love to reach into my pocket, grab my glasses, and throw them out to the audience. He just thought that was hilarious. And so, every once in a while, DG wants to put glasses in my pocket to see if he'll pull them out and throw them at the camera.
Stay True asks, could someone from the public visit and handle an eagle like you're doing now? I'm so fascinated with eagles, and it would be awesome to do that.
Well, the public can by appointment only. So you have to call us and say, I'm going to be in your area on this day. Can we make an appointment to come and take a tour of your wildlife rescue facilities? We'd be happy to do that. As far as handling the eagle, no. And the reason for that is that, like I said, they can be quite dangerous. And so if somebody comes up and I don't know you, and you come up to and say, "Yeah, here, put Scout on your arm," um, there is a relatively high probability that your next stop is going to be the hospital. And so it's if it's somebody that we can acclimate and get and spend some time and get them so that they're comfortable with them and Scout together. Um, but just someone from the public coming to visit, that's not possible.
Maybe we could talk about the difference between Scout being held by someone else versus when at a release, sometimes you let someone else hold an eagle.
Yeah, now again, we do a lot of wildlife releases. In fact, the golden eagle that we got in rehab right now, um, I'm so thrilled that it's up on the perches now. We're going to put it out in the flight chamber probably this afternoon, and when it's flying back and forth in the chamber, everything looks good. Make sure its eyes finished healing. We're going to release it, and when we release them, um, we will frequently seek out individuals or organizations to actually do the release. And basically, we'll meet at the release site, which is either on the mountain above Cedar City or out the Parowan Gap or some of the other places that we release them. And I give them very specific instructions on how to hold the eagle. And the eagle isn't like this, they're not just sitting like this. This is too dangerous. But I have them basically have their arms wrapped around the eagle, and I have them holding each of the foot and have the eagle tucked in to their chest, and I have them hold it low enough that you can't bite them in the face. And the eagle has a hood on their head so that they can't see. And I let and they can hold the eagle for just a minute or two, and then when they're ready, we have them throw the eagle off. As the we take obviously take the hood off first, but we have them throw the eagle away. Um, and and this is if they follow my instructions. This is perfectly safe. I've never ever had anyone get an injury from doing a wildlife release. Um, but like I said, the problem with that is it, it has to be when the eagle's ready to go. We have to release the eagle, and we can't basically call somebody up and says, "Hey, we got an eagle ready to go, and this is wonderful. I've got 2 weeks vacation next month. Can I come then?" And I says, "No, that's not the way it works. When I say the eagle's ready to go, we're going to release it tomorrow." So we can't make the eagle stay in captivity any longer than we have to.
But I understand it's also the difference between a wild eagle and a falconry eagle because, if at all possible, you never want to hold Scout the way you would a wild eagle, right?
Yeah, basically they don't like having people's being controlled, their arms wrapped around them, and a tight grip on each leg, and that you know the truth of the matter is the animals that I rescue, I'm the one that does the physical therapy. I'm the one that runs out and tackles them and rescues them. I'm the one that does the IVs. I'm the one that puts in the stitches and takes out the stitches. When these guys are ready to go back to the wild, they hate me. And that's good. That's what we want. We want them to stay as far away from humans as possible. And so we don't treat them like this. This is this is this is incredibly a unique honor to be able to sit here with you folks and have literally my best friend um, sitting on my arm and kind of cuddling with me and um, it's a relationship that is incredibly rare.
Stay True asks, if the public can't handle one, can we see one up close while someone else handles one?
If you come to our rescue center, I like I said, we can give you the tour and people can come and see Scout at our rescue center. And at the rescue center itself, we have two 20 by 100-foot eagle flight chambers. And if we have eagles in the flight chambers, we actually have an observation window that you can go and look into the flight chambers and see the eagles flying around in the chamber. And so, yes, people do get uh, an up close and personal view of these animals that you normally don't even get at a zoo.
Jeff Bishop says, "Hi, Martin. Jeffrey B. here. So wonderful to see you and Scout."
Hey Jeff, how's it going? Is Scout and I are just kind of hanging out, doing our thing.
Kay Price says, "I love the release videos best of all."
So do I. You know, it's educational to watch how we hand feed everything from baby hummingbirds and sparrows and robins and baby owls and hand feeding how we care for them. That's very educational, very interesting. Um, but there's something almost spiritual about watching these animals return to the wild where they belong.
Susan Morris says, "Hi, Martin and Scout. Scout is really looking so awesome, and he is so good when he's with you, too. Very well behaved for sure. God bless you both."
Yes, Scout is really just a dear friend, and like I said, we've been together 19 years, and he puts up with me, and it's an honor to have him.
Well, we're 6 minutes past the top of the hour, Martin. It's 66 minutes of 19th anniversary Scout.
Well, thank you, everybody. Any last questions before we call it a day and get Scout put back out to his weathering yard where he can relax and get a bath and those kinds of things. But most of all, just thank you. None of this would have been possible without your kindness, and it means the world to us.
And maybe we could also send out a reminder, Healer of Angels.
Yes, Healer of Angels, our book. You can go on the website and order the book. If you order it off our website, we will send you an autographed copy that has Scout's footprint in the book. And like I said, we've got 40 years of wildlife rescue stories and the wisdom of grandparents. It's a very, very fun family read. And again, the profits from the sale of the book help us feed the sick, injured, orphaned wildlife we care for. So thanks, guys.